What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Gifted Gamer 204 back at it again. And yes, you guessed right. Today, we got another banger for y'all, man. So if you're new to the channel, please don't hesitate to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit that share button as we keep on rolling right into today's video. Now, check this out, man. If you're part of the gaming industry, you should already know this is RGT85. Salute to you, my brother. Um, but he's kind of been, in a little bit of a little controversy over on Twitter with a clip that he provided. Um, so then, today he made a video reacting to, how people been reacting to his clip. So before we do the reaction, we're gonna cross over to Twitter and we're gonna take a listen to what he had to say first, and then we're gonna continue on with the video. Okay? So let's cross over here and let's hear what he had to say.
Fair. It was slim pickings this year, anyways, because this was a shitty ass year for video games. And anyone who says otherwise is a fucking moron. And you could quote me on, you can clip it, you can put it on our social media. I don't care. Anyone who thinks this was a great banner year for video games is an idiot. To be fair, it was slim pickings.
Okay, so that's the clip that's been going around, So now he's reacting to, everybody's reactions. So let's just have a listen to what he has to say. Okay, here we go.
Oh boy. Oh boy. If you just follow me here on YouTube, you probably know nothing about this. But if you follow me on Twitter or have a Twitter account that follows lots of people, you've probably seen this clip come across your timeline. And people are very upset with me, calling me names, saying this, that, or the other. And I just want to talk about this because the clip, I feel, was taken a bit out of context. But I don't necessarily, I'm not necessarily.
I mean, real quick. You just been saying if you disagree, you are an effing moron. You can quote me on that. So, you got to expect people to come back at you and, start calling you names and things of that nature because you already took it there. You understand? You already took it to that level. So now that's all in return. That's all you're going to start getting now. You see what I'm saying? So he started off, to me, he should have just never said that and just, continue on with the conversation and just answer the question. You see what I'm saying? But let's keep going because there's a lot to get into in this video.
Fairly mad at that. That's kind of how Twitter is. You take a small clip of something and then it gets blown up because you hear what you want to hear without actually knowing what the conversation was, both leading up to that and then talking about it furthermore. So in the clip, it was on Game and Talk. It was myself, Celia, and MVG. And I mean, I did say to clip this if you wanted to clip it. So, I guess I kind of brought this on myself. Basically, I said it was slim pickings this year. If you think this was a banner year for video games, you're an effing idiot. Talking about 2024. And of course, people immediately just, jumped on me. People were sharing this tweet saying, I don't love video games anymore. I only play Nintendo games, even though my two favorite games from this year were Astrobot and Batman Arkham Shadow VR, both games that aren't on Nintendo, so on and so forth. It's become a whole big thing.
Real quick. He only mentioned two games that he enjoyed this year. And one is a VR game. And the next one is, of course, none other than Astrobot, a PlayStation Studios game. I mean, of course, it has to be from Sony, right? But let's keep going. We're going to get into all this. Let's keep going.
And I just want to talk about this and give a little more context to the story and kind of, what the conversation was, because I actually watched this clip back. You got to remember, I do a lot of videos. I do a lot of podcasts. So when I say things, sometimes my mind forgets what I was actually talking about with it. In that clip, when I was talking about these slim pickings, the conversation was actually, if Nintendo had a game in the Game of the Year category, what would it be? And my response to that was it was slim pickings for first-party Nintendo games. And I completely stand by that. When you look at the output of first-party Nintendo games for 2024, it was a very conservative year. Not that there's anything wrong with that, because I think there were game highlights. But when you talk about what was the best or the two best Nintendo games for 2024 that were first-party games, most people would say Echoes of Wisdom and Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. Now, Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, to me, since that is a remake, really more of a remaster, I guess, because, there weren't core things changed about that. That's a 20-year-old game. Now, it's a classic game. It's a great game for sure, but it's not exactly pushing the medium of video games forward in 2024. It is one of those games where it's like, the GameCube game exists. That's what this game is. It just looks a little prettier and has some quality of life improvements. Now, if this was a brand new game, that's kind of a different topic and a kind of a different discussion, but it's not. It's a game that already existed.
That's so crazy to me. You see what I be saying about Nintendo? I mean, it's absolutely disgusting. at least when when they mentioned Sony doing all these remakes and remasters, at least they try to switch some things up to make the game feel, a little bit better. Like a quick example, just like I believe it was Until Dawn or Silent Hill, was one of the two. You know how they had to switch up certain things that when you people already knew that, like the location of these items. So they had to switch it up. They had to place them in a different location, just so the game could feel new. So now you don't know where those items are because it's not the same game as the original. When he's talking about Paper Mario, he's basically saying that this is the exact same game from GameCube. It's just it looks prettier now. That's all Nintendo did. They didn't do anything different but update the visuals and things like that, and that was it. I mean, this is ridiculous. Let's keep going though.
Echoes of Wisdom was a really good game, but I can't call it great. For me, Echoes of Wisdom, that inventory management system was not very good. And it really detracted my experience from playing that game. I think a simple inventory management system upgrade, to be able to map hotkeys to several different things that you're going to constantly use instead of having to scroll constantly through different items that you have acquired along your journey, I feel like it would have made for a better experience, a more seamless experience. It's a very good game. But as far as Zelda games are concerned, or games that have Zelda in the title, like to me, this is like the DS games. They're fun in short little bursts, but you're not really going to binge these games like you would a traditional Legend of Zelda game. And then everything else for the Switch was kind of just more of the same or very conservative games. So in terms of Nintendo, it would be slim pickings as far as what game would be added into Game of the Year. But let's extend that. Let's extend that beyond Nintendo. Look at the three.
And yeah, let me pause it right there. Because you see, this is where I feel like he should have just stayed with the question, answer it, and keep it moving. Or at least, now when he's talking about let's extend it, he should have just gone over to Xbox and just leave PlayStation out of it. Honestly, that's how I feel. And I feel like he's really like, when I showed you in that clip, you see how he spoke about Nintendo this year. So now when you look back at the clip on Twitter, you can understand, why he's so frustrated, because he is a more of a Nintendo gamer, right? So he is so frustrated with Nintendo that now he starts to look at the overall gaming space. You see what I'm saying? That's how frustrated he is with Nintendo. But let's keep going.
Big companies in video games as far as first-party publishers are concerned for 2024: Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft. What did these companies do that was great this year? Sony had Astrobot, great game that I really enjoyed. That should be in the Game of the Year conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that, what did they have? What did Xbox have? You could say Indiana Jones, but Indiana Jones, the game hasn't come out yet. So we don't know how that's going to be. You could say, oh, the previews of it look very good. Spoiler alert. Previews for the past 3+ years for all games have all looked very good. Doesn't that make you kind of wonder a little bit? Think about this for a second. Think about the last big budget AAA game that had a preview event. And think about if there was anything negative that came out of that. Did Redfall get a bunch of negative previews? No. Did Star Wars Outlaws get a bunch of negative previews? No. Yet, these games obviously did not hit the mark with consumers and gamers, and they weren't very good games. So when I look at Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo, like there wasn't a lot of great first-party games from them. Some good stuff, yes, but it wasn't great. And then you go into the third-party stuff. People like to bring up all of those games. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which exists because Final Fantasy VII does. Of course, you have the Elden Ring DLC, which exists because there's the base game you have to play the DLC. Silent Hill 2, a game that already existed on the PlayStation 2. And there were some good games this year. I'm not saying that there were not good games. Stellar Blade, Black Myth Wukong, Helldivers 2 was a fun game until they mucked that up with all the, nerfing of stuff and the questionable community support from these companies. But I can't help but remember all the catastrophic.
You see, now let me stop it right there. Now, he keeps talking about how these are, you see how he's talking about the games, right? Like if they were just good games that happen to come out, yeah, those are good games. This came out. Yeah, I'm not saying they were good games. No. You got to bring that back, because these were actually phenomenal games. Being one, Astrobot that he's enjoying, which is a 10 out of 10. I mean, the game was absolutely amazing. Now, it's even being considered for game of the year. That's how great it is. Now we could speak like this about Astrobot because I know already people are gonna say, "Oh, but that's just a kid game, Astrobot, this, that." But if we could talk about other platformers such as Super Mario when they come out with a banger, then we could go ahead and cross over to PlayStation and talk about Astrobot in the same way because it truly is an amazing game. You see what I'm saying? Now he keeps talking about the other games. He's bringing up, Stellar Blade, Helldivers 2, things of that nature, right? Now let me break something down to you real quick. Y'all gonna have to bear with me and stay with me because we getting into it right now. I'm gonna cross you over here and I'm gonna show you what a publisher provides to developers. They provide financing, marketing, distribution, localization, quality assurance, technical support, creative control, intellectual property. Now we could go through all this, but I'm gonna just leave it right here. You could pause it and just read everything, right? Just read everything of what these actually are, right? Now I'm gonna take you over to another tab over here where I'm gonna read you something, right? This is the Arrowhead CPO. Says Helldivers 2 wouldn't be the same game without Sony. They made the biggest difference, kept going for 8 years, strong faith in creative freedom, empowered studio leaders, vision driven but data informed, UX testings, and analytics. Not many publishers will keep going for 8 years. So many people who truly believed over at Sony. And not just that, PlayStation doubled the budget for Helldivers 2. It was initially planned for a 3-year project at Arrowhead. A team of 20 developers for the first game grew to 120 for the second game. You see what I'm saying? Now you take everything that a publisher provides, which what I showed you, and you tie that up into Helldivers 2, and what do you get? Now you're taking a risk. This is another thing. You're taking a risk, but this is how you build relationships. You do things like this. You provide them with a bigger budget. You help them out with your resources. Everything that you can do to that's gonna help them out. Next thing you know, fast forward to the release. It's a banger. I mean, no one expected it. Helldivers 2 took the video game industry by storm, and no one even knew what was coming. And if they tell you that they knew that Helldivers was going to do good, they're lying to your face because nobody knew about Helldivers 2. You can go and take a look back at all the reaction when at the one of those showcases, I believe, that when they first announced the Helldivers 2, how was everybody saying it? Oh, yeah, okay. Nobody, you're not gonna hear nobody saying, yo, that's gonna be the game right there. It's gonna sell over 10 million, this, that, and the third. No, ain't nobody doing that. So what happens? Fast forward, the game sold amazing, is doing amazing. Helldivers 2 was so damn good. If you think back to the time that that game came out, I mean, people were actually missing school. People were calling out of work. People were taking early vacation just to be able to stay home and play this game. People were going to sleep at 4 o'clock in the morning, having to wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning to go to work because they couldn't get off the damn game. Now, I don't consider that a good game. That's a great game. You see what I'm saying? So when you just skimming over games, they just, yeah, this is good games. I don't like that because you're not giving the game the proper praise that it deserves. So now you're just skipping over the game, just mentioning it like if it was nothing. And after everything I just mentioned, you can actually tell that the game was actually something. When you got people calling out of work, wanting to get out of work early just so they could go home. No marketing, no promotion, simply word of mouth. People were going to work talking to their coworkers. Yo, y'all downloaded Helldivers 2? Yo, y'all playing this game? Yo, this game is crazy. Everywhere, all over social media, people posting clips and things of that nature that they're going crazy. That's word of mouth. That's how good the game was. No motion. None of that. Fast forward, now we're hearing rumors that Sony is actually, on the verge of bringing in Arrowhead into PlayStation Studios. That's how you do things. That's how you create, relationships with people. You got to do things like this. You got to take risks. Okay. Now, I'm going to take you over. I'm going to take you over to Square Enix. Okay. Enix announced in January of 1997 that it will release games for both Nintendo and Sony consoles. This caused a significant rise in stock for both Enix and Sony. This was back in 1997. Sony's been having a relationship with Square Enix since way back then. And being that it was only Nintendo and Sony, Nintendo doesn't have the hardware for a Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So, it's on Sony. It's on PlayStation. It's not on Xbox, and it's not on Nintendo. And if you look at this relationship, it wasn't up all these years from 97 up until now. Recently, when they finally announced that they want to see where it takes them. They want to go third party and put their games out everywhere, which they have a right to do. Just like Kojima has a right to do what he wants to do. That's his property. That's his studios. He has the right to do whatever he wants. Just like Square Enix. But up until then, Final Fantasy VII was made for the PlayStation. Now, I'm going to take you. Y'all got to stay with me. I'm telling you, I'm cooking over here. Y'all going to have to stay with me because we going in. Now, I'm going to take you back to Konami. 1994, when the PlayStation launched, Konami created subsidiaries, I don't know if I'm saying that word correctly, to develop intellectual properties. For example, KCE Tokyo created the Silent Hill series, and KCE Japan created the Metal Gear Solid series. They've been with Sony since 1994. You think about the Metal Gears, and now, but we're talking about only this year's game, so we're going to keep it this year, right? And you think about the Silent Hill, which came out in 1999. You can only play it on PlayStation. So that's a PlayStation game. Just like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. It's a PlayStation game. And even though Final Fantasy, it wouldn't exist without the original, it's an ongoing game. I believe the plan for the Rebirth and things like that is to create a trilogy. I think they're creating a trilogy out of it. So that's why it came back out with the Rebirth and things like that. And Silent Hill 2, you already know everybody loves the game. But my point here is it's a Sony game. It's not on Xbox. It's not on Nintendo. Just like Final Fantasy, just like Hellblade 2, just like Stellar Blade, which is another game, mind you, which is another game that's published by Sony Interactive. Okay? Just like Until Dawn, that's another one. Did I mention Rise of the Ronin? It's another one. So these are all PlayStation games. You can only play them on PlayStation. So this is what I was saying, that he should have kept that conversation over there. Because he's trying to make it seem now like these games like Silent Hill and Final Fantasy ain't first party. But what I'm saying to you, what I just finished reading to you, being that you can and on top of that, being that you can only play them on PlayStation, they're first party, they're you got to include those in Sony's catalog. Anyways, let's keep going.
Failures that not only video games suffered, but the video game industry. There were huge games that completely flopped and didn't hit the mark as far as what you wanted to see from a video game.
And one more other thing, my bad. This is how you create organic relationships when you're doing things like this, just like I read to you with what they did with Helldivers. This is how you find a diamond in the rough. This is how you compete at a high level, but compete the right way. This is how you do it. Not like Xbox and Microsoft that goes out of their way because they got all the money in the world and they want to go buy up ZeniMax and then turn around and go buy, ABK. That's you throwing competition out of the window. The gloves is off. Microsoft is like, that's it. We done. Let's keep going.
There were games like Star Wars Outlaws, which I played and I beat, and I was let down. And now they're changing up core elements of this game to remove the mandatory stealth, to make it so that if you get caught in a stealth section, now you can pew, pew, bomb, bomb your way out of it. Is that the sign of a really well-crafted game? Is that the sign of a game that a company was confident about? Concord, like that kind of came and went in literally a week. The video game industry, that extending beyond just the games, was not in a good place this year. All right. Sales of things were down across the board. Companies are laying off individuals left and right. This was one of the biggest years for company layoffs, company closures. You make one game that stinks or doesn't hit, even if it's a good game, if it doesn't sell some insane metric, that studio will close down. People will lose their jobs. You have the questionable video game journalism side of things when it comes to reporting on things, making up, stories about games and game developers and why you shouldn't support this game, but then putting other games on a plateau for things that don't have anything to do with the actual quality of the game itself. There's definitely a rift with a lot of game journalists and a lot of video game players. But of course, with something like the Game Awards, to bring this all back full circle, who are the people that are nominating these games? Who are the people that are voting for these games? The same people that wrote hit piece articles about certain games that are in the conversation. I'm not saying that 2024 was the worst year ever for video games, because there's definitely highlights. If you're an RPG,
and right there, real quick, you see that's what we agree. This is something that the gaming industry does not need. Is big media outlets like IGN and them, who clearly showed their faces this year, and it's so clear now that they are biased when they rate things and review games. They're biased, and they clearly showed that this year. Now, when I spoke on the Game Awards, and I read to you, because remember, I've been talking about all of these things in my videos. When I read to you who actually, gets to vote for the Video Game Awards, you have the big media outlets such as IGN, Gaming Bolt, and the rest of them. You have big time influencers and content creators. We already know you already know who comes to mind, who are biased, and I'm not going to mention them here in this video. And then the other 10% goes to the public. Like, if that 10% is going to matter, they just throw that 10% out there just so you can feel good about yourselves. Well, guess what? Your vote don't count, buddy. I'm just saying. This is what I'll be talking about. So this part of it, it's another thing that took the game industry, it just blew up. All of a sudden, we got Sweet Baby Inc. talks. Everybody's going crazy online. It is a lot going on outside of just the video games. And I keep saying, it's because all these people just keep getting clout. The regular people, we keep giving those people clout and a reason to exist and, and be a big voice. It's because of that. All these big influencers, I'm not talking about RGT. I'm just talking about, like, if you've been to my channel, like, the people I'm talking about. So All we gotta, if we think about it, if we was to stop reacting to what they say, reacting to their review scores, you know, liking their posts, whether it be wherever they at, Twitter, Instagram, or wherever, on YouTube, you know, retweeting their post, you know, mentioning them. If we was to take all of that out and just leave them high and dry and just focus on the people that you know are actually giving you, you know, real reviews, whether it's good or bad, it don't matter. But you just know they're giving you, you know, a real review when it comes to that video game or that TV show or something like that. Where you think about where the gaming industry could be, as opposed to where it is right now, where all you're seeing is a bunch of garbage from all these media outlets, you know, being biased. So that's another thing that needs to be addressed. But let's keep going.
E-Fan, tons of great games. Unicorn Overlord, Metaphor ReFantazio, Shin Megami Tensei 5 Revenge or Vengeance or whatever it was. You know, there were tons of great RPGs this year. But when I look at the landscape of video games, especially on the AAA side, because there were tons of great indie games, you know, tons of great indie games, and maybe we should start considering indie games to be right alongside of AAA games. But for whatever reason, we don't do that. There's still a stigma surrounding indie games. But if you take a look at all the games, if you even take a look at the games that are nominated for Game of the Year, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Metaphor ReFantazio, Balatro, Astrobot, Black Myth Wukong, I think there's one of the Elden Ring DLC. Like, out of all those games, do you see any of those games really having a lasting impact beyond 2024? Do you see somebody in 2025 still talking about one of these games and how great it is? 2026, 2027. Was there anything that really pushed the genre of video games forward that was, you know, head and shoulders above everything when it comes to excellence or doing something different or being, you know, arguably the best game of the year? And to me, I don't think so. So,
I don't know about that one. Like I said, if there is any game like that, it will, for me, it will have to be Helldivers too. You know, because it's a game that you could, you know, always come back to. You know the impact that it had. Like, if you was to ask everybody, like, to remember the impact of where they remember where they were the time that Helldivers 2 came out, everybody's gonna tell you incredible things about it. You see? So to that question, I gotta go with Helldivers 2. That's how I see it. Now, another thing about the question, a lot of people could answer this however they want. I see it like this. You know, we living in a world where, you know, yesterday's news is already old news. You see what I'm saying? Like, time is moving so fast. Things are just moving at a pace where it's like you can't keep up with things anymore. So when you talk about yesterday's news, that's already long gone. We need to know what's happening today. We you show somebody yesterday's news, they're gonna come at you like, yeah, I've been seeing that. That's old already. Yo, but you didn't see what happened today. Look at this. That's what we are today. Now, it's not like us, like, you know, like people like me and him, like RGT85, that we think about back in the day and we be like, man, damn, I miss those days, man. You remember when we was playing this? You remember this game? Like, them days are gone. Ain't no more back in the days. When you're talking about kids from today's world, it ain't going, when you fast forward 25 years from now, it ain't gonna be no, yo, you remember the good old days back in the day? Nah, ain't gonna be none of that. Cause everything in today's world is just so fast. What's going on today? Yesterday's old. What's going on for today? That's all you see today. Yeah, before, back in my time, you know, everything, like, we paid attention to things. We didn't just grab onto it for 1 second and then keep moving. No. Like, if we bought toys, we will keep that toy for as long as possible. I will keep that toy until the toy's legs broke off or something. So that's what we living at today. So to that question, that's what I'm saying. Like it's too hard because we grew up in different times. So when we think about our games that we grew up on, we could go back and be like, yeah, I remember, yes, yeah. But now the kids from today, 25 years from now, think about how far ahead in the future we're gonna be 25 years from now. For these kids to actually stop and think and be like, damn, you remember 2024 when we was playing this? Nah, technology is gonna be way too advanced already in 25 years from now, and who knows what's gonna be going on. See what I'm saying? So that's how I feel about that question. Let me let him finish so we can wrap it up.
To bring this all back full circle, when I say a banner year, I'm talking about when people are going to say, oh, 2024 was like the best year ever for video games. And it wasn't to me. It definitely wasn't. Not in terms of releases, not in terms of the health of the video game industry, not in terms of all the other things that used to not be a part of the video game industry that are now a main focus of the video game industry. I think it was a decent year and there were some good games, but I don't think it was one of the greatest of all time. That's what I meant by a banner year. But of course, it's social media and people take a little tweet, a little out of context clip, and then they run with it. I still love video games. I probably play more video games than the average person does. And I did really enjoy some games this year. You know, Batman Arkham Shadow VR and Astrobot. But I don't think it was a great year for video games. I just don't. And I definitely don't think it was a banner year. As in talking about this.
All right, so I'm gonna stop it right there. I'm gonna leave his link to in the description below in case y'all want to go and check out the video for yourself. But you know, just to wrap things up, like he mentioned, look at the games he mentions for Nintendo this year, right? That Zelda game and that Paper Mario. You go look at Xbox. The only game they've come out this year was Hellblade 2, and that's a walking simulator game. I don't care how visually amazing it looks. The gameplay is trash. Point blank, period. So, as I keep saying, and now when you look at this, right, pay attention to what he's saying. It's basically he's just another person that's proving all of my points right, which I keep saying over and over again. That if it wasn't for PlayStation, that's why people feel, you know, that the gaming industry recently, not even like only this year, it's been recently that you've been hearing, oh, the gaming industry is dead. There's no new games coming out. It's so bland, nothing good. It's because PlayStation is the only platform providing us quality, great games. That is why. You're not getting nothing from Nintendo. You're not getting nothing from Xbox. You're only getting from PlayStation. And if it's not PlayStation, it has to be a third party. That's why people are feeling like that. And I'm going to keep standing on that because it's the truth. You want facts? These are the facts. All those games I mentioned earlier, those are PlayStation. It don't matter how you want to see it. The reality, the facts are they came out they were made for the PlayStation console, where you can only play them on PlayStation. Not on Xbox, not on Nintendo. So that's why he's feeling like that. And he's so frustrated because he's a Nintendo guy. And this is what I be saying. Picture this. Picture this. You see how Microsoft only came out with Hellblade 2 this year? Picture Sony just coming out with one game this entire year. Just one, just the Astrobot, and that's it. Take away Stellar Blade, Helldivers 2. Take those games out of your mind. And just Astrobot and Hellblade 2. Do you know how bad people will be talking about PlayStation right now? Oh, forget it. Will be a field day online if PlayStation was to actually do something like that. I mean, PlayStation can't even take a year off without putting something great because they know they gotta carry the damn gaming industry on their shoulders. So that's the difference. That's why I feel like RGT85, he needs to, when he's talking about the gaming space, he needs to break it down. Don't talk about the whole gaming space when it comes to the 3 platforms. Don't talk about the 3 of them like they're all in the same space, because they're not. PlayStation been bringing out games. When you make content like that, you need to be talking about Team Red, which is Nintendo, and Team Green, which is Xbox. Make a video talking about those 2. I bet you he'll wrap up that video in less than 2 minutes because there ain't nothing to talk about. Anyways, man, I think I said enough here. Y'all let me know how y'all feel down below. Again, shout outs to RGT85. Salute to you, my brother. You know, I just had to go in real quick. You feel me? But anyway, it's your boy, the gifted one here, man. And I'm going to catch y'all on the next one. I'm gone.